Hello, everyone. Happy Sunday. I hope everyone is doing well and that you are able to enjoy your day. I am super glad to be on with you all tonight. As you may know, I am your host, Kaylin John Louis, and I am looking forward to a magnificent podcast. Whether you went to church, relaxed in your house, or hung out with friends, I hope that your day was splendid. And I just am grateful for those who are tuning in. While you tune in, I do want to give you a friendly reminder to remember to be safe around others, as there are many illnesses that are around, and we want to make sure that everyone is safe. I want to make sure everyone is able to continue their lives. So just make sure that you're being safe around others. We are getting to the end of the school year for students. So finish strong. We're almost there. We got this. But I am, again, very excited to be here tonight. Before I go any further with the show, I ask that you hashtag connect with me on all my social media platforms. First being on Instagram, which is at Kaylin Cares 15, where you can follow me there. You also can follow me on Facebook and LinkedIn at Kaylin's Caring Connection to be able to get caught up on any upcoming events or anything we have going on with KCK. Then you can follow me on YouTube by subscribing to the KCK Inspiring Moments with Kaylin YouTube channel and turn on your post notifications. And last, I ask that you go to the website, which is www.kaylinscaringconnection.com, where you can find out a little bit more about me, about why I started the organization, and my whole goal for Kaylin's Caring Connection. But to those, again, thank you for tuning in. And if you are tuning in, go ahead and share this with a friend, family member. We are very, very excited for tonight, and we believe that this is going to be one of the greatest podcasts / episodes that we're going to have, because I have some amazing lineup of guests. I'm just excited to celebrate all these youth caregivers. And if you've seen the flyer, if you've seen what's been going on, you know that today is celebrating youth caregivers, because around this time last year, we were doing the same thing. I mean, you know me, I'm Kaylin. You've seen my brand, my grandma and my grandmother who have Alzheimer's. They both were my reason for caring. They both were my why I continue to care, why I continue to push the way I do, because I love them. And I decided to go on this journey with my mom. And ever since then, I've just been able to use my platform, and God has helped me to be able to raise awareness for youth caregivers. And that is what we're doing today. And so, again, if you're here, if you're tuning in, before I go right into our topic, I do want to say, make sure you say hello. Make sure we know that you're here, because I am very grateful for those who are constantly keeping up with Kaylin's Caring Connection. Without you, I would not be where I am. And we're going to get right into today's discussion. So, like I said, if you clicked on the link, you know that today are the results. We are sharing the results from the Kaylin's Caring Connection Youth Caregiver Awareness Drive. But before we get into that amazing ceremony, I do have a very special guest who I do have on, because I want to be able, if you've been keeping up, that I share my stories. I try to share other people's caregiving stories, because the more that we can put things out, the more awareness we can spread. I mean, the more personal we get and be able to show others that there are people out here who are going through these things, I feel like the more we'll be able to really let people know who youth caregivers are. And one of the guests that I have today, she has done so much in this world just to be able to not only raise awareness for youth caregivers, but she's also doing all she can to make sure that we are being represented in research, we're being represented in podcasts and blog writings, and in speaking engagements in all around the world. And so, just to give you a little introduction, my guest grew up as a youth caregiver for her disabled mother. In 2013, she moved to the United Kingdom to obtain her PhD in social work, studying young adult caregivers in the US and UK. Currently, she is the program manager for the Students for Health Equity program at Vanderbilt University School of Nursing, while also continuing to practice as an independent researcher and consultant. She is a caregiver.com champion, representing caregivers in the Nashville area, and she served as the Hunt Research Director at the National Alliance of Caregiving during the spring of 2021. She recently completed a postdoctoral research fellowship at the University of Sussex, where she co-led the United Kingdom research activities of nearly 4 million European Commission funded research project to investigate the mental health and well-being of adolescent youth caregivers in the United Kingdom, Switzerland, Slovenia, Italy, the Netherlands, and Sweden. But before her research career, she was a nationally certified mental health counselor. She presently sits on the board of trustees for the Care Center of Brighton and Hove, the National Advisory Council for the American Association of Caregiving Youth, other known as AACY, which you have probably heard on this podcast. And she has numerous international research advisory committees that she is a part of. She resides in Nashville, where she continues to provide care for her mother, and her name is Dr. Kaylin Lewis, and I am beyond excited that she is here tonight. Welcome to the podcast, Dr. Lewis.
Hi, Kaylin. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure and just my honor to have you here tonight, because after being able to I found you, and I was able to, those who don't know, I've been raising, like I said, I've been raising awareness for youth caregivers, and in the process of trying to spread the word and be able to get people to know about this drive, I came across her and the amazing things she's doing on her website. And so I know I gave you a grand introduction, but go ahead and let the audience know just a little bit more about you.
Kaylin, I don't think I could do it justice as you did. Thank you for such a warm welcome. And truly, the honor is mine. I am blown away and so privileged to be here. Kudos to you for all that you're doing and raising the platform for youth caregivers in the US. That's so important. So I think you kind of covered it all in my bio. I guess I can start off with my caregiving story and how I found myself as a research advocate in this field. So when I was 11 years old, my mother was diagnosed with degenerative disc disease. And that means that the cushy part of your spine, it starts to slowly kind of disintegrate and kind of goes away. And it causes pain for that. And my mother underwent what's a routine surgery for that condition. But unfortunately, the surgeon took out bones from her spine that he shouldn't have. And that left her permanently disabled. And she was only going to be in the hospital for a weekend and ended up having to stay there for weeks on end, go into rehab, relearn how to walk. And that completely took our family on a trajectory that we would have never foreseen with something that should have been routine.
Wow, what a journey. I mean, a lot of things happen in an instant, and nobody knows how much it will change your life just from one thing to happen with a family member. And I mean, to imagine at 11, I mean, I started my caregiving journey kind of around 10, 11-ish, but I just know that even at being a youth caregiver, there are a lot of challenges that many people have to deal with. And I do want to say I commend you, because that is amazing that you're able to step in and help your mom. But I am wondering, what was the most challenging thing you had to endure in your caregiving journey?
So, as I mentioned, it was unexpected that the surgery went wrong. And I have an older brother named Farrell, and he's 7 years older than me. And at the time, he was going into his sophomore year in college. And he came home that weekend thinking he would just be there for the weekend. But since the surgery went wrong, he ended up staying home permanently. So he dropped out of college, came home, and started looking after both me and my mom. And my brother got a full-time job. He took on paying our bills, would give care for my mom, would take me to school, help me with homework, and really kind of shouldered at the age of 19 the responsibility of our entire household. And I myself at 11, was living in that home. And that's when I became also what we call now a youth caregiver. And for me, that meant helping my mom when she was trying to relearn how to walk. That meant intimate care, like showering, helping her get dressed, and also things like wound care because she had several corrective surgeries after that. And I would say, looking back on our experience, I think the most challenging aspect of all of that, it wasn't necessarily the practical caring task, it was the emotional impact from that. It was terrifying to have something like that happen to my mother. I was really young at 11. And I think also the loneliness and isolation that I felt. I didn't know any other youth caregivers like myself or anyone else like my brother. And I'm so amazed and so grateful that other children and adolescents and teenagers and young adults have people like you who they can turn to and know that they're not alone like I was.
Oh, wow. Thank you. What you said, I mean, I love that you continue to care though, because I mean, even with an unexpected situation, you never could have imagined. I mean, I didn't imagine for myself as well. And I like that you were talking about how emotionally it impacted you a lot because with that being your mom, I mean, I'm sure you were used to your everyday, her caring for you and you, the role was reversed in that sense where you had to step in and just knowing that you had to go through that at 11. I mean, you were probably, of course, you had your big brother, which is great because I know a lot of youth caregivers everywhere don't really have that. Those people to be in there and step up with them. I mean, I have my mom with my grandmother. She's primary and I'm secondary, but I couldn't imagine how much was going on. And so, even with that being your greatest challenge, what would you say your greatest triumph has been?
Mm, Great question, Kaylin. I'd say my greatest triumph is actually that I get to do things like this. I I'm also a religious person, and so I love to think of God taking something that was so horrific and catastrophic for our family on an individual level, and then using me as a vessel to really help create change for other children around the world. I feel like that is such a privilege for me that I don't take lightly, and I feel like but it's a personal triumph, but I also feel like it's God's triumph as well over something that was horrible and bad and awful. And I really see it as a way to, I think, really honor what my brother did as a young person, something that he shouldn't have had to do at 19 years old, and then for the many years, in his young adulthood years. But I view what I get to do, what he did allowed me to do what I do now in terms of research and advocacy work. And it's an honor, but I also, as you said, just triumph and that look at what God is doing. Look at how something can be completely life changing, but good can come out of it, even if it takes some time, because it's taken some.
Definitely. It does take a lot of time. It takes time, it takes sacrifice. It
Mhm.
definitely requires you to get that extra sense of love. And I love that you said that even we are vessels of God, being able to be and spread the gospel of what he intended for us to do. I definitely am think that is a great thing because even with me being an advocate, being able to see people like you and different ones that I can look up to
Mhm.
see how much you've done with just being an advocate, doing everything that you can to make sure that us youth caregivers are represented. I'm very grateful to know that there are people in the world like you because without you, we wouldn't have that representation. And so I know that I discussed some things about you doing research, but I would want to say, how did your personal caring experience lead to your obvious passion for advocating for youth caregivers?
Well, for me, I realized that I wanted to go on. So I'm trained as a therapist. So I have to kind of out myself as that, not a social worker, but as a therapist to start my degree being in social work. So I love psychology. I love figuring out how the mind works. And I was kind of working on a little mini dissertation in my master's program. And it was on young adult caregivers. But I realized all the research, all the policy, all the supportive interventions were coming from the UK. Like they weren't from the US. And that really opened my eyes completely to see how different life can be in a country where there are supportive services, where there are nonprofit organizations, where youth caregivers are named in policy by the government. And that's what was going on in the UK. So I realized that I needed, if I wanted to actually help the other children and young adults who were like me in the US, isolated and alone and not knowing that there were millions of other caregivers like them, I was going to have to do something about it. And that meant, for me, I recognized, to do research, I was going to have to leave the US and go to the UK and learn from the best, learn from their models, and bring it back here to my country.
Wow, what a sacrifice. I know traveling had definitely had to be fun to be able to see different parts of the world. But I mean, just to embark on that journey, because I know that I have heard of research, like you said, in the UK, there are a lot more things versus the US because you hear youth caregivers. But even with COVID, there's so many more youth caregivers now. I mean, I had a lot of people tell me they didn't even know what a youth caregiver was
Mhm.
till I started advocating for it. And so I'm just curious, with your research, how did it feel to have to, you were able to see these different children, you're able to survey them. What did you learn from being able to do this research about youth caregivers?
So my particular research topic was looking at the ways your identity, so who you are as a person, how that's shaped by caregiving at a young age. And that research topic was inspired by looking at the life of my brother. Like, I saw the ways at 19, 20, 25, 30, how caregiving, that took over his whole world. Like, it changed his career trajectory, it changed who his friends could be. Every part of his life was affected. And I was really curious to kind of figure out, okay, so that's what happened with my brother. What about other young adults? Is that something that's the same experience for them too? So that's what started off my research, looking at identity. And in terms of what I found, I think the answer overwhelmingly was yes. Caregiving does shape exactly who you are, who you do become as a young adult, as you're transitioning from being a teenager and figuring out who you want to be in life, where you want to go. And caregiving, in many ways, can shape it positively. So maybe for some of my sample, they would say that caregiving taught them skills like time management and household management and leadership skills and articulation, like what you have, and being able to communicate well. But also, some would say that unfortunately, caregiving, they felt like, was a barrier and hindered their development. So they felt like it kept them from pursuing their dreams in terms of going to college or the job that they wanted to do or marrying or having children. So it was really interesting to see that even in positive or negative ways, regardless of what happened, caregiving was an influence. It really is something that does touch us, like a mark. Like, we receive this
Right.
stamps on us, and we have it the rest of our life.
Definitely. I mean, we all have these huge marks on our life, whether it's caregiving, whether it's just in general change. And I think caregiving is a big change for a lot of people, a lot of youth, especially because they go from having a regular school life and being able to do things, really having to step in that role. And so I know a lot of people mentally go through a lot of things when it comes to being a youth caregiver. So I just want to give you the chance to really touch on that for a second about how it has affected youth caregivers' mental health. And yeah, like the thing at the bottom says, if you have any questions that you have for Dr. Lewis that you would like her to answer, please put them in the chat so that we are able to address them.
Great. Love that shout out. So I suppose I should start off by saying how many caregivers we estimate there are in the US in terms of impact, if we have any professionals or educators listening. So our recent estimates, we'd say that there's at least 5.4 million children in the US with a caregiving role. And that's under the age of 18. So we say, though, that that's a low estimate. So that's numbers from research that took place before COVID. So we can imagine that number is much, much higher now because of COVID and the pandemic. But as you said, Kaylin, when you think about the millions of children, and I also include young adults in this too, I am particularly concerned, as so knowing my background as a therapist, but then also the research findings that I've had in the US, in the UK, in Europe. What I find across the board, no matter what country, is that youth caregiving impacts a young person's mental health. So when I'm referring to mental health, I mean things like depression, anxiety, certainly things in terms of their stress level, inability to sleep because of their stress level. But also, what particularly concerns me, Kaylin, as a professional, is that children and young adults are reporting that they also are feeling so mentally distressed in relation to their caregiving role that they're also telling me that they occasionally have thoughts of hurting themselves, and sometimes even thoughts of hurting somebody else, and sometimes a care recipient. So that's really what I feel like when we want to talk about we need policy change and we need all these supportive organizations for youth caregivers. That's why I feel like this is so important, and also why the work that you do is so important, because these children and young people are really struggling, because if they're telling me across the board and overwhelmingly numbers that not only is it depression, but also to think of hurting themselves, that's serious. And I really want our country to wake up and listen and recognize how serious it is and why we need to support this group of young people. I'd say, and yeah, and it's scary and frightening, and I hate to be bring bad news on a Sunday afternoon, but it's real, and I certainly have experienced that as a youth caregiver myself. The anxiety, that fear of not knowing what will happen to my mom, even now as I'm still a caregiver. She's the most cherished person in my life besides my fiance, and I worry. Yes, I'm engaged. Yes. And and I worry, and I worry so much about her health. And I would see that in my research that the worries would keep children up late at night. Then also the sense of responsibility, and missed opportunities that children felt like they were missing out on. So, if there's any professionals listening, I don't want to leave it all doom and gloom on your podcast, Kaylin. I do think there are some ways that we can help youth caregivers where we are. So, there are resources like, of course, yourself and other organizations like the American Association of Caregiving Youth, which is based in Boca Raton, Florida. If you know a youth who's in a military family, there's the Elizabeth Dole Foundation, who's doing great work now with their Hidden Helpers program. That's working with children who are in military and veteran families. And also there's a new group in Chicago, Lorenzo's House, who's specifically dedicated for children and young adults who are caring for a family member with Alzheimer's or dementia. So they're starting to begin a little bit more work here in the US in terms of wanting to support them. But I'd also say even if you're not in Chicago or you're not in Florida, there's still ways as a professional where you can support children, and particularly with their mental health. So what I hear most of all when I interview children and young adults who are caregivers, they tell me two things for sure. One is if you could help the older person or the disabled family member or whoever is the person they care for, if you could meet their needs, that would alleviate the burden on them as the caregiver. So that's the first thing, is we need to have a huge overhaul in terms of our policy and the supportive interventions we do in this country to help those that are ill and disabled anyway. So let's do that. That's first of all. But then number two, what they say they want is they want a trusted adult. They want someone they can talk to that's safe, that's understanding, that's going to be empathetic. And I believe that may not always necessarily be a therapist. That may be a teacher. That may be, a coach, whoever they have in their life that is a listening ear. That's so important to them. And I think it gives them the opportunity to offload, to say, I'm so worried about my parent or the sibling that I care for, or I am actually having more severe thoughts. I am thinking of hurting myself. Like they need that person that they can turn to. So I really encourage, if you're a professional or an educator listening in, that you be that one person in a youth caregiver's life. I know for me, when I was in college, and it was a really difficult time, what was going on with my mom at the time. And I had a professor who pulled me after class and said, "You're not your normal self. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, what is going on?" And I told him all that was going on with my mother's health. She was in the hospital at the time. And I was so grateful for that one professor who stopped me and asked questions and said, "Okay, I'm going to connect you to the University Counseling Center because you need to share. You have a lot going on, and it's just you need to offload." And that changed my life. That gave me somebody who I could talk to. So I think you don't have to be, even if you're not a therapist, even if you're not, you don't have a title, you can always signpost and direct children in your life that to some resources. So that's what I'd encourage. I think that's a responsibility we all have to do, and we can all do that.
Wow, so profound. That's so profound. I mean, everything you said, and I mean, I hope y'all know for those listening, it's not the last time we're talking about this. We're going to connect on other platforms to really get deep into this conversation because there are so many things that we have to do to really get the word out about youth caregivers. As she said, mental health is a huge thing. I mean, that's a huge thing, even not just for youth caregivers, but that's just the topic of a
Mhm.
lot of things that is going on right now. And so we really need to find ways in the schools to address this, to allow students to know that they're not alone and to provide those policies. That's why I'm grateful to God that I have Kaylin's Caring Connection, because even if I can't do everything, I could still find a way to advocate and I could still have that moment. And so even Dr. Lewis, just to hear that, thank you so much. I mean, everything you have suggested, everything that you have told, I really hope that you have listened to what she has had to say, you all, because what she's talking about is not just something, youth caregivers is not just a mini idea that we have to fix. No, this is something going on right now. And even with her talking about students dealing with having suicidal thoughts or some of those youth caregivers who don't have that support system, it's very important and it's very pertinent that we get everything we can to make sure that they know that there are people out there who care and
Mhm.
there are those who are going to make sure that they're okay, because we want to have more youth caregivers graduating, youth caregivers being able to accomplish their goals and not just have to settle for their situation that they're in. So definitely, definitely. I thank you so much. And I mean, I know she's going to be here, y'all, but we do want to get into what is actually going on. But I am so happy. You all have no idea what has been taking place and what has been going on, because even with Dr. Lewis being here, everything that happened with this drive happened for a reason. When I tell you the way God moves is very strategic in the things that happen, because you know that at the beginning of this drive, we kicked it off in April where we had our second annual KCK Youth Caregiver Awareness Drive. And throughout the drive, I was asking people to solicit for those I was asking people to nominate youth caregivers from the age of 18 locally so that we could highlight them. And we asked for donations from generous donors. We did all of these things just to be able to raise awareness for youth caregivers. And once the drive closed, I was going back and looking at the results and realized that the response that was given was not what I expected. I mean, last compared to last year, I was expecting more, but initially it was quite disheartening because I expected, like I said, a lot more. But after reflecting, I realized, like I said, God does everything for a reason. God places people in your life for a reason. And even before me and my mom kicked these drives off, the first thing that we pray and say is that we hope that Kaylin's Caring Connection will be a solution to someone's problem or circumstance. And in this instance, tonight's celebration is going to be just that. So, we have an awardee, as you know, for the Youth Caregiver Awareness Drive. And I hope you know that. I mean, I could give this huge introduction, I could say all these things about her, but I thought it would be better to have someone who knows her better than probably anyone else in the world, which is her mother. And so we have with us our awardee's mom. Her name is Miss Tanya Perry, and I just am so grateful that she has given us the opportunity to even celebrate her daughter, celebrate the great things that she's doing. So let's welcome her in. Hello, Miss Tanya. Can you hear us? Uh-oh. I hope you can hear. Can you hear us, Miss
Yes,
Tanya?
can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you
Awesome.
for being on, and we're going to let you take it away.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you so much for this honor and award for Nia. As Kaylin said, my name is Tanya Perry. I am the mother of Nia Perry. And just to give you just a little bit about my story, also, Dr. Lewis, thank you also for being here. And I heard all the inspiration that you both were sharing. So in 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And as we all know, 2020 was a year that we won't ever forget, any of us. But for myself and Nia, it was pretty significant because not only was there COVID happening, the breast cancer diagnosis came, and we know the world shut down right around March of 2020. And when that happened, it was almost impossible for people to come and be here with us. And so at 15 years old, Nia stepped in. And I remember the day that we sat her down and told her about the breast cancer. It was literally a week before I was to start treatment. And I knew there was no way I was going to be able to keep it from her. My heart was to try to get through cancer treatment without her knowing anything at all. And I had even said to myself, as my hair started to come out, maybe I'll just tell her, Mommy put some chemical in her hair and it just didn't work out. And so the hair started to fall out. But we knew we had to sit her down and tell her. And she cried a little bit. And then after she found out, she says, can I take a nap? And so I said, yes, you can go to your room, take a nap, just kind of collect yourself about everything you've heard. And she woke up about an hour later and she came back to me, Mommy, we're going to do this. And when I say this little girl was my angel, like everything that I needed, running the errands, taking care of the chores around the house, making sure that we both stayed safe, of course, during COVID. And thankfully, we were blessed that neither one of us got sick with anything during this time, other than myself going through treatment. The days when I could barely get out of the bed to do anything for myself, she was there all through the night, coming in and checking on me. And I was in active treatment for about a full year, a year of active treatment. She was also dual enrolled at Florida State and TCC. We live here in Tallahassee. So Florida State and the local community college. And balancing school, balancing her academics and everything that was going on at home personally, she was able to maintain, and to this day, maintain a straight A average. About a couple months ago, we found out that she had gotten accepted to Spelman College. Actually every university that she applied to, she was accepted to. But it was just really amazing to see her resiliency. I know many days she had to be afraid, but she showed courage and resiliency and just strength through everything that she was going through, just to be here, being here with me, just the two of us, not knowing if her mommy was going to be okay, but also showing this strong outer exterior so that I didn't have to worry about her. So we were actually being strong for each other, but this little girl and what she did has been nothing short of amazing. I work with students every single day. I work on a college campus and I deal with students who've gone through extenuating circumstances and crises. And something as small as my cat ran away, in a lot of cases, students just are unable to make it. But from 15 years old up until this very moment, she's been right beside her mommy's side, but also maintaining being a teenager, being a student. There were many times I know she cried. There were tears, but through the prayers of others, so many people around us that were praying for us, praying for Nia, she was able to make it through. She's been able to make it through. And I just could not be more proud of her. I'm proud to call her I'm proud to be her mommy, but even more proud to call her my daughter. And so I thank the committee, I thank this organization for recognizing Nia for the amazing young woman that she is and that she's going to become.
Of course. Thank you so much, Miss Tanya. I'm so just excited that I was even able to see her to meet her, to be in her presence, because I believe, like you said, she is so deserving and she is so patient, so selfless. And I'm just so happy to be a blessing in the time of need to her. So I do understand that you do have to go get her. So
Yes.
while she goes ahead and
She's
brings
ready
her
now.
in.
She
Oh,
can,
nice.
Nia, you can come in. You got your lips already.
I am so
See.
happy. And her story is so amazing. Hi,
Hey,
how are you doing?
good. How are you?
Good. Now I know this probably doesn't take you by surprise because I did tell you I wanted to have you on my podcast because I've
Mhm.
been talking to you at school, being able, one, I just want to tell you personally, just in this personal moment, that I'm so glad that I met you. I'm so glad that I was able to be connected with you through school, through our administration, just to be able to hear your personal story. And even when I interviewed you 2 weeks ago, I was trying to figure out everything with this drive. I was looking for people and soliciting for nominations. And I said earlier, I didn't get any, to be honest. I didn't get any. I was really concerned at the moment, but then I realized and took the moment to see that there was a reason why I didn't do it because I met you. I met you. I heard your story. I heard how much that you were enduring with your mom and being able to help her. And so I just want you to know that you are our awardee for this year. We are honoring you. And on behalf of Kaylin's Caring Connection, on behalf of our community partners, and above else, on behalf of God, I want to present you with the Kaylin's Caring Connection Youth Caregiver Award of $500.
Oh my goodness, thank you. So,
Of course.
Kaylin, maybe I should step in right here and tell Nia that Nia thought she was waiting for to join a Zoom call with me and the financial aid director from Spelman College about a financial aid award. So I'm pretty sure she's shocked right now because she thought that she was coming to talk about more financial aid from Spelman. We're still waiting for additional aid to come. We know God is going to make a way. One of the things I prayed for is that God will make the path straight for Nia because she's so deserving. She really is. To be able to maintain a 4.66 GPA, never made a B, but still being a caretaker, being a student, and also just being a daughter and balancing all those things. And she did it. She did it without complaining. She did it without any issue at all. Any issue. So you want to talk a little bit, tell everybody about because there's lots of people here listening, joining in.
Mm-hmm.
Want to hear your story.
From when you got diagnosed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in January 2020, I found out mommy had breast cancer. Well, you found out in January, but you didn't tell me until March.
Right before I started.
Right, like a week before school shut down with COVID. At that time, I was sophomore class president. I had already had like a lot of stress on me anyways, just like navigating life and like growing and things like that. So it was a curveball, I'm gonna be honest. I was really shocked, but I knew that it was just me and my mom and that somebody was gonna have to like step up when she got sick and somebody was gonna have to run the house when she couldn't. So I just really took on that role. Luckily, well, COVID was a blessing in disguise. School shut down, so that really gave me more time to just be able to take care of my mom. I knew I could handle my academics regardless. But that really gave me time to focus on her through the summer and things like that, making sure she was okay, taking her to her chemotherapy infusions, scheduling doctor's appointments, sitting in the parking lot at TMH, picking up prescriptions and things like that, and then just taking care of her inside at the home because cancer is rough. Chemo is very, very rough. And I just knew that somebody had to be her rock while she went through that. So sophomore year ended, and then I go into junior year, still doing the same thing. This is still in COVID, still taking her to treatment and things like that. And she finally rang the bell March 2021. But once you ring the bell, that doesn't end anything. She still had doctor's appointments, still had meetings. She actually had another surgery after she finished treatment. So I still had to be caregiver, and I still see myself as her caregiver, even though she's perfectly fine. But just handling all of that, every day, knowing that I can't just be like normal teenagers and just think for themselves. I have to think for me and my mom. Getting through the day, we kind of got on a schedule, so it did in a way get easier. I got used to it. It became a part of me. But I'll never like really let that go. Like this, it's definitely changed the trajectory of my life path, in my opinion, and how I see myself and how I see my mom, and just really how I see the world, honestly, and how we help people and help each other. And you never know what people are going through, because I never really told anyone. None of my friends really knew. Only a few of my teachers. I wanted to like keep it to myself. I didn't want to make it a big part of me to like get attention or anything like that. Like I stayed under the radar, did my work. Everything got turned in on time. And the teachers that did find out were like, wow, I had no idea. How are you able to do this? But I just knew me and God. That's all I really needed.
Yeah.
To do this.
You and God. I mean, that is so, you have to keep God first. And I mean, just to know that you're doing so much and that you're still continuing to care for her is so amazing. But I do want you to know that that was not it when it came to blessing you. I actually have one of me and my mom's close friends here with me right now who we're going to pop in, and she's going to be able to give you something special.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Just want to say congratulations once again. I heard your story and just was as truly inspired, as they say. I love what Kaylin's Connection is doing. And I think I had the opportunity to meet your mom, read over your resume, and I was truly impressed. I am Dr. Tawanda Davis, and I'm actually with the Cancer Knockout Foundation. And one of our goals is to pretty much promote awareness in the community. It's actually a foundation designed to educate cancer survivors, but not just cancer survivors, caregivers, and the general public on some of the latest advancements in cancer research, and just to kind of provide that support system. Prior to COVID, we would have like what we call a survivors banquet celebration, honoring our survivors to the utmost. I am a two-time cancer survivor. My daughter is also a caregiver. Well, when I was first diagnosed, she was 7 years old. That was the first cancer, breast cancer. And then the second diagnosis came when she was about 15, about your age, 16. Yeah, 15, excuse me. So now she's at Purdue. But she was a caregiver. In the process of that, we structured or organized a caregiver scholarship on her behalf. And COVID kind of pushed us back on some things, but we wanted to take this opportunity as well to present you with, we have 2 caregiver scholarships, but we want to be able to present you with one of those caregiver scholarships in the amount of $500. Not a lot, but you can get some books, travel something with it. But we wanted to show our community that we're supporting. It's our way of giving back to our community, and also inspiring our young people to let them know that we see that what you're doing is hard. My daughter had to get up, cook me some eggs. She had to take care of a lot of things around the house, do some things for me. She was going to get on tonight. She's at school, but she had a study session. Y'all know they're in finals right now. But I didn't want to let this time go by to say what you're doing it's phenomenal. You can't even imagine that selfless love and care that you provided to your mom will be remembered time and time again. So thank you. We need more young people like you to just get in there. And I'm so glad that you took that opportunity. More young people like Kaylin, just to spread that awareness. But then again, more young people like us to show that, hey, we appreciate you guys. So thank you again, and congratulations for Spelman.
Thank you.
Super proud. Oh my God, it's amazing. So thank you, Kaylin, for this opportunity. Ms. Priscilla will get with you in terms of where I can send you the award.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Dr. Davis. This is such an honor. Nia and I, it's a lot more to the story that, of course, we not shared more of a personal side. As you can see, it's just the two of us, and that's significant. Just the two of us, and so knowing that there are people, because for so long, like she said, no one knew. We didn't really talk to a lot of people about it. We just kind of made our way. There are some people, our family, and I believe I've seen some of the comments that I know they're here. I cannot say enough about my family and our friends, the people who have prayed with us, my sisters, my cousins, my aunts, Miss Michelle, Miss Diane, Miss Linda, Miss Hunter, just all of the people in that small group that we had who know the story, know the full story, who've just been here with us. I thank them as well. And Kaylin, you and your mom and I talked probably almost 2 hours. We connected immediately. And so she talked about how you and her always talk about, God send you the people who you're supposed to be a blessing to, or be the answer to someone's prayers. And when I say we've been praying about our situation and circumstances, not just the cancer, but everything else that's happened in the family, we've been praying for 3 years. And the day your mom called, I literally had just come out of prayer. And the phone rang, and the person said, "Is this Tanya Perry?" I said, "Yes." And she asked me, "Was I Nia Perry's mom?" And I said, "Yes." And I said, "What is this about?" Is Nia, what is she done? She says, "Oh, I'm Kaylin's mom." I said, "Oh, is everything okay with Kaylin? I've heard all about Kaylin from Nia." And she says, "Yes, everything's fine." And she told me about your heart and that you wanted to honor Nia with this award. And when she mentioned to me, when she immediately said, "We just want to be a blessing to someone's prayers," I just burst into tears and just started thanking God, because I literally had just prayed, "Lord, make the path for me and Nia." So thank you all. Thank you so much. I get emotional thinking about it because, thank you guys.
Thank you so much, Kaylin. And I just talked to you. I was like, "Oh, it's so nice that Kaylin asked me to do an interview and things like that." And I was telling my mom, like, I just did my first interview at school, and it was just such a nice experience to be able to like talk and share my story and things like that. And I had no idea that this was happening.
I succeeded.
So this
Yes,
is
you did.
definitely a surprise to me. So thank you. You are an inspiration to me. You're hearing your story and how you take care of your mom and your grandmother and how all the things that you've done these past few years for your organization and things like that. So I just want to thank you. You set such the example for other youth caregivers, myself included, because I just started doing this. I'm new to this. You have just done it with so much grace, and you care so much about your community. So I can only hope that I, take a piece of this and take it to Spelman and grow. And I might even try to bring a chapter to Spelman in the next few years.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
You're so deserving. You are, just to know that you've done all this and you've kept your head held high the entire time. You didn't allow it to defeat you. You stayed on your grades. You stayed on trying to make sure you could be the best young woman you can be is amazing. So I had to do whatever I can. And I mean, now I want to, if people know, like she said, she is going to Spelman, and y'all know that can be a little pricey. And so I am offering it up now. If you would like to shout out your Cash App, we want the money to go to directly to you.
Oh
It
my
is up
God,
on the screen. We want the money. If you are watching right now and want to help her for her college fund, when I tell you, y'all may not know her whole story, but there is a lot that she is going through right now. And to have this there for people to donate, for people to do everything that they can, it is going to be a blessing to her, not just to her, but just for me to know that I was able to help is just a blessing. So, yes, if you are watching right now and you would like to help sew into her going to college, because I'm telling you, she's not just a regular student who just gonna go to college. No, she's gonna make a difference. She's going to
yes, she is.
do what she can, and she's going to step foot on that campus, letting them know that this is who I am. So please, please, please go ahead and sew into her. Again, Nia, I am so thankful. And I know Dr. Lewis is still on, and would you want to give her any words of encouragement, Dr. Lewis, just to be able to sow into some words of encouragement to help her as she embarks in her new journeys?
Absolutely. Well, first, I must congratulate you. That is wonderful. And I can just tell, just from the words that have been spoken about you, that this is really only the beginning. Like, you are going to go from strength to strength, from accomplishment to accomplishment. And I just speak favor and new opportunities for you. And I pray, as your mother said, that your path before you is smooth. And I just hope that everything comes your way. I know, not only from a spiritual perspective, the Lord sees what you've done in terms of your sacrifices, and will honor that. But yes. I also just know the way that this world works. You being such a beautiful, caring person, that will open doors for you. So this is really just the beginning. And I know it would have been hard, and I know it must still be hard, because I heard loud and clear what you said, Miss Tanya, that it's just the two of you. So I hear that. So I know it's tough. And I know even when tough days come in the future, you have the strength, those skills, the resiliency, the faith to keep going.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. But again,
Tanya, for raising a beautiful daughter. Well done to you too.
Woo, woo, woo. Yes.
She really is. To know Nia, she never complains about anything, never complains, never giving us a hard time. I can't even say if she's even really got a spanking or anything. Just joking. But seriously, she's just always been a mature young lady, always carried herself with a lot of grace and strength. And I've seen this in her from a little person, but she's grown to be a beautiful young woman. And I cannot be more proud of her. I know she's ready for what she's about to embark on. And everything to everyone that's going to sow, if you wanted to give, but you didn't have it to give, just your prayers, because we know prayer changes things. And so for her going out into the world and for what she's about to face, I ask that you just send her off with your blessings and your prayers, that the favor of God and the grace of God will continue to carry her through this next season of life. So thank you to everyone. Thank you for everything. And Kaylin, I told your mom, I'm a giver. I believe in paying for it. I believe in giving and sowing. And so for everything that's been sown into us, we certainly will pray that God will pour back into you, pour back into your organization 1,000-fold for you too, Kaylin, as well. And not just through the prayers that we're praying, but also through service. So anything that Nia and I can do to support your nonprofit, I'm right here to help. I'm here to support as well and support and promote. And just as Nia said, if she says she's going to Spelman and start a chapter, she's going to start a chapter.
Thank you. I'm honored to be in your presence. And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to get my whole woo screams out when I actually see you in person, Nia. But again, I just thank you for simply being able to share your story with me and being able to allow me to recognize you. And to everyone who came in, Dr. Tawanda, thank you so much for being willing to partner and being willing to help her and allow her to get further. I thank you so much, Dr. Lewis. Your words of encouragement, your conversation, everything has been amazing. And like I said, we're not done. So y'all be on the lookout, because me and Dr. Lewis are going to have more conversation to really hone in on the mental health of youth caregivers. But to those watching, thank you so much for staying with us. I know this was a longer podcast, but it was meant for a reason, and we wanted to really, really recognize. So thank you, ladies, for being on. I'm going to go ahead and close everything up, and I'm just grateful for you all's presence. Now, to those who are watching, I do want to give a special thank you to all the people who helped with donations. I want to thank Ms. Vicki Bradley, Miranda Baggerly, Cheryl Forrest Rogers, Thelma Sloan, Patricia Harris, Lynette Dunley, Joyce Butley, Montrell Harris, Barbara Hunter, Becky Dickey, Cassie Barber, Vanessa Mims Smith, Miss Paula DeBowles Johnson, and Miss Cindy Jackson Wayman. To every single person, those people are the main ones that donated, that we were able to get that collection. But I continue to thank everyone. Y'all know without y'all support, I would not be able to be here. So thank you for tuning in. I will be pushing stuff out because the radio show will be coming out this upcoming weekend. Make sure that you're on the lookout. I do go live on Hallelujah 95.3 on Saturdays at 12 p.m. So make sure that you're tuned in so that you can hear more inspirational words. I am so grateful for you. And if no one has told you today that they love you, know that I do. Have a great rest of your night. And for those who are testing this week for students, do well. I pray great success, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Bye-bye, and I will see you all later.